Welcome back. So in India right now, they are experiencing a COVID-19 surge. Cases in India right now are just skyrocketing. They're having to put patients essentially on trains in India as the situation there is deteriorating. The situation there is particularly dire right now that countries all over the world are sending India supplies, including the United States, which is sending India some additional supplies, including vaccines. This is reporting from ABC News.
Overseas now, and the COVID surge slamming India. Officials calling it a tsunami. The country recording nearly 1 million cases in just 3 days. Experts saying that's just a fraction of the real number of infections. The healthcare system on the brink there. Train cars being used for patients. So many dead. Mass cremations are happening in the streets. Tonight, the haunting images and the warning for the rest of the world. Here's ABC's Julia McFarlane.
Tonight, what officials in India call a tsunami of coronavirus cases is fast becoming a global catastrophe. For the third day in a row, the country shattering world records. More than 345,000 cases reported in the last 24 hours, nearly 1 million in the last 3 days alone.
The situation in India is a devastating reminder of what this virus can do.
The death toll so high, mass cremations are being held in the street. The country's underfunded healthcare system on the brink of collapse. Hospitals running out of room, leaving patients on gurneys in the streets. The government forced to turn these train cars into mobile units. This desperate young woman crying out this hospital is useless. Her mother taken away on a rusty gurney. Stricken hospitals pleading with the federal government to provide emergency supplies of oxygen after 20 people reportedly died without it in Delhi. The health ministry reported more than 2,600 deaths in the past 24 hours, but experts say even those figures are likely an undercount. With every new infection lies the risk of another variant of the disease. This is not just India's problem, it's all of ours. Whit?
And that is a major concern. Julia McFarlane, thank you.
Reporting from ABC News about the dire situation in India right now as they are seeing cases just continue to rise exponentially. If you've been watching the news this week, you know about the situation in India. According to Insider, as India is experiencing this COVID surge, the wealthy in that country are essentially jumping on their private jets and flying out the country as COVID-19 cases hit a global record. The United States is pledging to send medical aid to India. As I just said, their hospitals are overwhelmed. You heard that little girl there essentially panicking and begging for help for her mother there. This is from NPR, quote, "The United States will make more medical aid available to India in an effort to fight an alarming spike in COVID-19 cases." The pledge came during a phone call between White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and India National Security Advisor Ajit Doval on Sunday, as India has become the epicenter of the global coronavirus pandemic and the country's health system is collapsing. Quote, "Just as India sent assistance to the United States as our hospitals were strained early in the pandemic, the United States is determined to help India in its time of need," National Security Council spokesperson Emily Horn said in a statement, which went on to say that the United States will offer the export of certain raw material urgently needed to vaccine production, for vaccine production, as well as sending test kits, ventilators, and personal protective equipment, among other aid. The United States had previously banned the export of raw vaccine materials, stating an obligation to take care of Americans first. So once again, we're getting this breaking news about India's COVID-19 surge. We know that today, according to NPR, India has reported nearly 350,000 cases just today, more than any other country on any day since the pandemic began. The fourth day in a row, the country has broken that grim world record. Many worry case numbers are woefully undercounted, as you just heard in that ABC News report, since test kits are hard to come by and hospitals are completely overrun. The sudden spike has caught the country completely off guard. In late January and early February of this year, cases were at record lows, and the Indian government declared an endgame to the pandemic. Restrictions were relaxed, travel resumed, and gatherings came back. Now cases and deaths have skyrocketed. Crematoriums are running day and night, unable to keep up with bodies. They are desperate pleas. There are desperate pleas for oxygen, hospital beds, and medicine. Oxygen is by far the biggest need in the country right now. Hospitals are trying to ration oxygen for the patients who are able to secure a hospital bed, which is difficult in itself. Hundreds, possibly thousands, die each day without doctors unable to help. One longtime journalist who couldn't get treatment live tweeted his declining oxygen levels until he died. Quote, "I have never felt so desperate or helpless," Dr. Trupti Gilda said in a Facebook video she recorded of herself, weeping as she huddled in her car outside the Mumbai hospital where she works. Quote, "We are seeing young people. We have a 35-year-old who's on a ventilator. Please pray for our patients." Sunday's pledge also said that the United States was urgently, quote, "pursuing options to provide oxygen generation," and would be deploying a team of public health advisors from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the U.S. Agency for International Development to work with health officials in India at the United States Embassy. So India, as I said there, that was reporting from NPR. India is seeing coronavirus cases continue to rise exponentially. India's prime minister is calling this essentially a storm, what they're experiencing right now in India. Just absolutely terrible. As I said, setting the highest coronavirus infection in that country for the 4th straight day. So yeah, they are going through a lot right now. India's prime minister continues, quote, "We were confident, our spirits were up after successfully tackling the first wave, but this storm has shaken the nation," end quote. Once again, reporting there as we are continuing to watch this situation live in India right now as coronavirus cases are continuing to rise just exponentially. Last summer, actually, I had reporting on coronavirus cases skyrocketing in India. And I would tell you, based off my experience of reporting on it, the situation there is very, very terrible. I mean, I reported on this one example that the New York Times did, where you had this pregnant woman who went from hospital to hospital with her husband to try to get care because she essentially to try to get essentially try to get care. She later died, unfortunately. When hospitals are overwhelmed, particularly in a country like this, it is of grave concern. It is a threat to the entire society. So we need to keep an eye on this story as more information develops. We're going to have more reporting on this throughout the week here. Obviously, this weekend, excuse me. So keep an eye on this situation. Please keep India in your prayers as we watch this story develop. We'll be right back.